Sit here now in New Zealand a few months after. What was your overriding feeling of how it panned out?
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, it's obviously bitterly disappointing in terms of the result. I think credit does have to go to Australia. They played extremely well. Had everything aligned for them nicely. They had all their bowlers fit and ready and firing to go, ready to go, and they played some really good cricket and put us under pressure for long periods. And I do think we had opportunities within the series, and we just weren't quite good enough to take them, which really stands out for me as the things that we need to looking forward. We need to work on and get better at. Look at that position we got ourselves into at Brisbane with the bat in that first innings. The pressure of that first day, and I thought we really did stand up to it well, and then we weren't quite able to drive it home. Similarly, Adelaide, I decided to take quite an aggressive option to bowl first on that surface, and we just couldn't quite find the lengths that we're going to challenge on a wicket that was offering a little bit. We proved in the second innings that in those conditions we can be a very dangerous side, and just for really long periods of time we weren't able to keep putting pressure on them and drive home the results that we wanted.
So is one of the feelings you've got a feeling that you didn't do yourself justice?
Yeah, I think so. I think you look as well at their senior players, someone like Steve Smith, the amount of runs he scored, and in big series like that, me as a captain and as a senior player, you're the guy that has to stand up and deliver, and I wasn't able to do that, and that sort of not sitting well with me right now, and coming into another series here in New Zealand, you want to make sure you bounce back from that personally and set the example for the rest of the guys, of how you want to play and how you want to take the team forward.
I mean, you're new to captaincy, and with a lot of other stuff going on, did that affect your batting?
No, I don't think it did. The preparation and everything that I did around the game and around the series, I thought was actually quite driven in making sure that side of things was looked after properly, and there was no focus taken away from that. I think it's something that going into the job I knew was going to have to be my number one priority, was to score runs and make sure that that side of me giving to the team was always going to be there. And again, I got plenty of opportunities where I got starts and I got in and I didn't go on and do it. And those series are the ones that you want to stand up in and make a mark and sort of create history. And unfortunately, this time round, it wasn't to be.
Have you been able to work out why you've not been able to convert those starts? Because I'm a little bit split on you. I have a huge admiration for your consistency in all forms of the game. I think last year you averaged 58 in all forms of the game. Every time you go in, you seem to get to 50, but you're not converting. And obviously that's highlighted with Steve Smith going on and getting big hundreds. Have you put your finger on why you're not doing that?
No, Nas, I think that's why it keeps happening. Like you say, you always want to be consistent, and I think that comes down to the way you prepare and the way you get yourself ready for each game. You try and be as level as possible within the sport, and make sure that when those bad days come along, you don't get too upset, and when you really do things go in your favour, you stay quite level. And I think that's something that over the last couple of years I've managed to find. The thing that's really sort of been eating away at me is that I get to 50, 60, 70 and I've not been able to drive that home. And I suppose in a way that's the sort of driver for me to keep wanting to get into that position again, because I want to get it right. I want to produce match-winning performances and contributing to big scores which are going to set up wins for the side. So it is really frustrating, and if you've got any answers or secrets that I'm missing, then I'd love to hear them.
He's got no answers how to average 58, that's for sure. In terms of going to Australia though and winning, it seems to me you've got to almost have the perfect tour on and off the field. Given the events that happened in Bristol, what was your challenge for the Ashes sort of fell below the waterline before you'd even taken off? It robbed you of your best player.
It's easy to look back on things like that and almost make excuses, and again, I don't think we'd be doing justice to the group of players that we had. I think we got there with full expectations of coming home with the Ashes, and we had I think we did have it a tight enough group of players to go and do it. You know, in Australia it's a very difficult place to go and win, and you're going to have to be at your best throughout the whole tour. And there were incidences off the field which obviously didn't help us and distracted a little bit from our cricket, especially people watching back home and stuff and following that. That wasn't great for for our image as a team after what happened, and sort of almost could look like it fell into the way we went about approaching the cricket. And credit to the boys and the squad, the management and stuff. I don't think that it played too much of a part in the result. I think that we stayed very together as a side, and we throughout the whole trip we continued to keep believing and keep grinding away at getting the results that we wanted. And if you're not good for long periods of time in Australia, and I think it's been the same for a number of years, if you're not always on it and you have a blip for 20-30 minutes, they really do make you pay, and that's where we kept getting it wrong.
Trevor Bayliss said on an interview to Ian the other day that he felt that Ben Stokes had let the team down. You have put a lot of faith in Ben. You made him your vice captain. Do you feel let down by Ben at all?
Again, I don't go into it like that. I think that Ben. I look at Ben now, and he's extremely excited to start playing cricket for England again. And he's obviously a close friend of mine. Played a lot of cricket with him. He's done some magnificent things for England in the past, and I look at what he's capable of doing in the future. And I think that that's the way I'm seeing Ben now. I'm sure he has a lot of drive and determination to put in some really strong performances in the future, and to almost get back to where he was at the back end of the summer.
How hard is it though, been in Australia when things off the field are getting to a point where it might distract the group of players, and you as captain, how hard is that as captain?
It's very hard. I mean, you say that everything has to go absolutely perfectly. It was twice as much for us, obviously. With all respect to Joe, I thought that side they were playing against were for the taking, really. I mean, England had won 4 of the last 5 previous Ashes series. Australia were in a little bit of turmoil. In my era, we were playing against one of the greatest sides of all time in that Steve Waugh side, whatever. Not only did we have to be at our best, but they had to be below par. We had tours, my tour out there. Graham Thorpe pulled out the week before the Ashes side was selected. Goffey went in the first Test match. Freddie Flintoff went in the second. Simon Jones went in the first morning after that brilliant decision to bowl first at Brisbane. His knee snapped. So things have to go perfectly. I think I have to be honest with Joe's side. I don't think that the planning was quite as good as it should have been, just with things like warm-up games, etc. And also felt he went with a bowling attack in particular. That's what hits you in Australia, and I'm sure it hit Joe at some stage. With that Kookaburra ball, I can't emphasise enough to people at home or people who have played the game, it is like a different game completely, and you need a different attack. And I don't think England selected particularly well in the bowling department for this Ashes series.
Talk about planning then, because Paul Farbrace mentioned that at the end of the series. Were you happy with the planning going into that series?
Yeah, I think that it's easy to look back on any series and say when you've lost that there's things that you could have done differently. I thought that we had a good amount of time in Australia, and actually, there's only, you look at the opposition we had to face, it wasn't an Australian A side, it was some young lads, very talented young lads that I'm sure will have good careers within the game, but it was obviously not of international standard. And I look at the way we performed in those games, and for periods we were very good, and there were still periods where we weren't, and we made similar mistakes in the Test matches that we did in those warm-up games. Looking back now, I think it just shows how important it is to groove those good habits and to make sure that whenever you're representing England and whenever you're playing, whether it be a warm-up game, whatever, you have to make sure that you're treating it as if it's a Test match, and you have to do everything right so that when it comes around to those pressure moments and on the big stage that you do get them right.